Hello everyone, it's Will Falk from Thacker Pass. First, a quick update. BLM has not been up here to find Max or I or to force us off the land. That remains a strong probability and a probability that may increase as time goes on. They have not responded to the letter we sent on Thursday evening, but it's still highly likely that they'll come to at least cite us and fine us, and hopefully not to force us off the land. But what I really wanted to talk about was some reflections I've been having after a walk that I took last night. I like to take walks in Thacker Pass at dusk. Dusk is a magical time here. The colors are enchanting. The way that the stars shimmer on the snow surface is beautiful, and it truly is the witching hour of Thacker Pass. And it's a time of day that I find to be one of the best to really hear what I think Thacker Pass is trying to tell us. And last night, she seemed to be pretty blatantly showing me the images of war and symbols of war. So, for example, there were lots of rifle shots that popped out of the canyons behind me. And when I fell into the snow to look up at the stars, as I really love to do, the first star that really caught my attention was Mars. Mars is the god of war, and Mars light shone down very strong and very red, which kind of reminded me of all the bloodshed and all the wars in human history. And then when I looked down, I guess, from the stars, I found that I was in another place that is in fact a war zone. You might not be able to tell by what we're looking at that we are in fact in a war zone, but this area right here is an area that has been chained clear of old growth sagebrush. Chaining is a process that government agencies like the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, use to clear different kinds of plants quickly and brutally. They take a heavy anchor chain, a chain that was used by usually by U.S. Navy battleships for their anchor chains, and they stretch those chains between two tractors or trucks, and they drive parallel across the land and rip up everything in their path. They do this because cattle don't eat sage, and when you rip sage up, grasses usually fill the niche, and right now a lot of those grasses are invasive, like crested wheatgrass, cheatgrass, but those are things that cows will eat. So this area that we're looking at right now has been chained, has been attacked by a battleship anchor chain. I'll show you a little bit closer, but you can kind of see the line of the tall old growth sage, and then you can see where there's not very many plants left. So Thacker Pass showed me pretty clearly the symbols of war, and that got me thinking. Something that's central to my work, to my writing, to my activist work, is the notion that there is in fact a war being waged on the natural world today. In the past, wars were waged to eliminate whole ethnicities of humans. Today, the war on the natural world is being waged to eliminate dozens of not just ethnicities, but whole species of non-humans. And sorry, that kind of hit me hard as I said it. Yeah, whole species are being driven to extinction today. And I think that while corporations and governments and those in power aren't necessarily shooting bullets at us every day, though in some places they surely are, they are pumping poisons into the water, they're pumping pollution into the air, they're destroying soil, they're deforesting, they are doing all kinds of destructive things. But even if they're not shooting bullets at us, they are surely shooting carcinogens at us. And while we may not be killed by a bullet, and while it may take longer for a carcinogen to kill us than a bullet does, many of us probably will die from environmentally induced cancers. You know, if, again, it's not as sudden as a bullet, but it's death anyway. And one thing that military strategists talk about, sort of a basic principle of war, is to win a war, you must deprive your enemy of the ability to wage war. You must make it physically impossible for your enemy to wage war. You know, there's plenty of examples in history. You know, one of the primary goals of Patton's famous run through North Africa during World War II was to destroy oil refineries and to cripple the Nazi or the Axis ability to access that oil. And by World War II, armies really did run on oil, especially tanks and airplanes and battleships that were so key to strategy then. Another example is the way that William Tecumseh Sherman, in his march through Georgia, destroyed everything in the South in his path, the march to the sea. He destroyed farms, he destroyed rail lines, he destroyed telegraph lines, and the whole purpose of that was to cripple the Confederacy's ability to outfit their army, to feed their army, and that's ultimately what won the Civil War. Thacker Pass has, I think Thacker Pass was telling me last night that there's a war about to be waged on her. If Lithium Americas is able to construct the mine, then she will be destroyed. That's sort of a warlike situation. But we can take that principle of warfare, that the way you win a war is to eliminate your enemy's ability to wage war, and apply it to Thacker Pass and realize that one way to win a war against Lithium Americas would be to deprive them of their ability to get their construction equipment here to dig this place up. Luckily for us, there's only one road that comes into Thacker Pass. It's a 2-lane highway. I think it's Highway 293, sometimes called Kings River Road, I believe. It's not a very wide highway. It's a small 2-lane highway. And if that highway was blocked up, then you could prevent the construction equipment from getting to Thacker Pass, and we would deprive Lithium Americas of their capacity to wage war. But as always, that kind of strategy requires a lot of people to get here, and it seems it's still a question of whether we'll be able to get that many people here to block the highway.